Hello, welcome back to Unqualified Analysis. We got the NFL Divisional Round edition of Unqualified Analysis with some big coaching news that just came across my phone here. I am your host, Caleb. You can follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. That is down right there in the bottom right hand corner of the screen, and links down in the description so you can go find me wherever you need to go find me. Outside of that, we're just going to get straight into this thing. I'm fresh out of the shower. I've got things to do, but there are games to talk about. So we're going to do this, wrap it up, and then I'm going to go walk my dog at a reasonable time, and we'll call it good. But first and foremost, I suppose I'll take a swig of this. Just brushed my teeth. Not a fantastic feeling there. Either way though, let's just get straight into this thing. We might as well start off with a game that lived up to the hype, though it ended up not being that close. However, it ended up not being that close in a way that people did not expect. We're talking about the Commanders going on the road to the Lions, winning 45-31. Jahmyr Gibbs was insane. 14 carries, 105 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not even to mention he had 70 yards receiving as well. He was all over the place the whole day. Problem is, Jared Goff turned the ball over 4 times. Jaden Daniels turned it over 0. He had 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. Also added in 51 yards running, but not exactly efficient on that front. The point of the matter here is just short of 300 yards passing, over 300 yards total, had 350 yards total. In fact, this was Jaden Daniels' coming out game. Make no mistake about it. It was spectacular. It was fantastic to watch. And the Detroit Lions ultimately faced off against a team with a little bit better defense and better offense rather. They still scored 31, so the defense wasn't exactly the problem that they were facing off against. Commanders hung 45 on them. That'll happen when you're going up against a team that is bereft of talent due to injuries. And you saw the results there. Commanders go on the road. They get the win. Lions just too little too late. And when Jared Goff is turning the ball over, 4 or 5 times? Just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. These things are a little bit self-inflicted. Even though the defense didn't really do you a whole lot of favors, this just is what it is. And boy, oh boy, I'm about to sneeze. Whew. A little bit of something stuck in the old nostril there. Sorry about that. Anyways, the Lions, though, man. This is a tough one. This is a tough one for you. 15-2 season. You end up getting the exact same amount of wins in the playoffs as the Vikings. Turns out that was just a cursed matchup back there in Week 18. Thought it might be a preview of the Divisional Round matchup. Unfortunately, it was a preview for Cancun, and that is what it is. Neither of those teams won a game again after that game. So hey, can't say I wasn't cheering against Detroit in this one. I'm just not even gonna lie to you. This is a beautiful thing for the Lions fans, really, and you should think about it this way: you've gotten good enough to where other fans in the division can hate you now because they no longer feel sorry for you. We can hate you now, and I took relish. I very much relished in this loss by the Lions, in this win by Jaden Daniels and the Commanders. Good for the Commanders, by the way. I got to give them all their flowers in the world. This is, in year one, surpassed even my wildest expectations for this football team. In the NFC Championship, beating the number 1 seed on the road to get there. Jaden Daniels looks spectacular. They could still lose Cliff Kingsbury to some team looking for a head coach this cycle. We'll just have to wait and see on that. But for right now, this, you got to be ecstatic if you were a Commanders fan. This being year 1 of the new regime. Not expected to do well. That being said, they lose Sam Cosmi. He tore his ACL, so he's obviously not coming back. That's their best offensive lineman, and you're facing up against a freak beast in the next one in Jalen Carter, really burying the lead there on how that Rams-Eagles game went. But if you're watching this by this point on Tuesday, you probably already know, unless you've been living under a rock. So we'll just keep it moving from there. But great win by the Commanders. They have done very, very well. They got a hell of a challenge up against them in the next game, but to get even to this point, it is a win above all else for this season. Just enjoy this while you got it. I don't know how much longer you're going to have it. That's kind of the nature of the playoffs, but essentially the nature of this team in particular. But hey, enjoy this while you got it. As for the Lions, I can't help but feel like they may have missed their window. And listen, I know Aiden Hutchinson's coming back. You got a bunch of players coming back off of injury. I get that. They just lost Ben Johnson to the Bears. Again, burying the lead big time on that one. But that one just came across my phone here. It seemed like they already had a deal in place before the Lions lost this game. And ultimately, just being respectful, they waited until after everything was all done. But yeah, the Bears are hiring Ben Johnson. That news came out on Monday. So you're not going to have your offensive coordinator. Aaron Glenn is going to get hired by one of these teams, whether it's the Jets that he's interviewing with today, as I'm speaking on Monday, or whether it's some other team. One of these like 6-7 job openings, however many there are still out there. There's still a bunch, by the way. One of them is going to take Aaron Glenn. So you're losing both your coordinators. And I love Dan Campbell. I think he's done a great job there, and he made great initial hires onto the staff. It's not a guarantee that you run it back again. I mean, I believe in Dan Campbell. He's given me no reason not to with the way that he's built the culture in that franchise. But at the same time, it's not a guarantee that you're going to hit the lottery like you did last time. Just getting two legitimate future head coaches as your coordinators right off the bat. I just don't know about this one. I mean, I feel like at the very least there's going to be some growing pains. I think by default you're not going to find an offensive coordinator as good as Ben Johnson. You're going to have a really tough time finding one nearly as good as Aaron Glenn as well. And look, I like Jared Goff, but he really benefited from being in this Ben Johnson offense, and I think you're going to see a bit of a drop-off now that he's not in the Ben Johnson offense going forward. I think he's still good. He's still a good starting-level quarterback, but I put him on the same level as Geno Smith, where, yeah, he's solid, but at the same time, you could do better. You could certainly do better, but the Lions are already pot committed with him, with an offensive coordinator. It's not going to be a proven commodity, to say the least. So I don't know where the Lions go from here. I think roster-wise, they'll probably be just fine, but with that amount of uncertainty in the coaching staff, nothing is a guarantee at this point. I'm curious to see if this is the closing of the Detroit Lions window. I don't necessarily think it is, but the gap between the window and the windowsill is much narrower. We'll just say that it is much narrower than it was before. So 1, 2, 3, Cancun. We're out of here. Congratulations to the Commies for getting to the NFC Championship and making this little boy real happy on Saturday. Anyways, also looks like the Colts are hiring former Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo. That's a good hire for them. That's actually a really good hire. I mean, there's obviously some blame on Lou for how bad they were just holistically. They did still have Trey Hendrickson at the end of the day, but it's an upgrade from Gus Bradley for the Colts for sure. And Lou Anarumo is still a really solid defensive coordinator. So bringing him in, that's a good step in the right direction. They got a lot of other stuff to figure out, but that's a good step in the right direction. So that's news. But let's just really dial in and focus on this Ben Johnson news. So he's going to the Bears. The Bears landed their main guy. Everyone knew that they wanted him. I think everyone wanted Ben Johnson. But obviously Ben Johnson wasn't just going to go to any opportunity. He was waiting for the right one to present itself. And look, I have mixed feelings on this from a Ben Johnson perspective. I mean, obviously, you look at the fact that Caleb Williams being one of the best prospects as a quarterback that we've seen really in recent memory and for a long time. I mean, it's Andrew Luck is really the only one that tops him in recent memory, I would say. And Andrew Luck's an almost unassailable prospect coming out of college from Stanford there. So the bar is set really high there as far as the talent is concerned. I think that obviously intrigues Ben Johnson. I think he probably looks at the receivers that he has available to him, thinks, okay, I can work with the offensive line. It's not ideal, but we put some resources into it this offseason and we're in business. We're still got a quarterback on a rookie contract and probably could just, if you're Ryan Poles, just plow assets into the offensive line, both draft capital and just free agency signings in that respect. Defensively, solid defense. You got to worry about who you get as a defensive coordinator. But if you're Ben Johnson, obviously you feel confident that you can figure that out. So, I mean, from afar, assuming that you trust Ryan Poles, this looks like a solid opportunity for Ben Johnson to step in and do well, which I don't hope that happens, because I don't like the Bears. Never liked the Bears. Noted Bears hater. I mean, let's just call it like it is. I do not like the Bears one bit. But as far as the hires go, this is the best possible hire that the Bears could have made. This is the hire that everyone wanted them to make, both fan-wise and the organization, all of it. This is exactly who the people wanted, well, maybe not all the people, but people that were objectively looking at this job wanted, for Caleb Williams' sake, for Ben Johnson to come in there. Now, we'll see if that benefits him, because frankly, the Bears is still the Bears. And until Ben Johnson washes the stink off of the Bears, like he certainly has the opportunity to do, I think he's a really, really dynamic head coaching candidate. And if he doesn't do well, I mean, I guess shocked wouldn't be the right word, because he's never been a head coach before, but he's about as good as you can possibly get going into this situation with the mentorship he's received, with the offensive brilliance that he's shown with the Detroit Lions. It's about as good as you can possibly get. The problem is the McCaskies still own it. Ryan Poles, what kind of leeway does he have to make football decisions? Does he have too much leeway even? Is he that good of a GM? I think he's pretty solid, but the jury's still out on him. He's made a couple key bad decisions that have kind of hampered the team's success. They've obviously not taken the NFC North and not looked back, like Ryan Poles said in the opening press conference there for the Bears. I don't know, man. I mean, conceptually, I understand it's a good challenge if you're Ben Johnson. Honestly, if a head coaching job's coming open, probably doesn't mean that the situation is great necessarily. Probably going to have some flaws there, so maybe this is the best opportunity that he was going to get, especially with the Bills losing. That honestly might have been why this was, waiting until Monday to break, because hey, if Sean McDermott lost his job with the Bills, Ben Johnson would have taken that job in a heartbeat. Now, that's not something that people are going to talk about, because it's not really, I mean, with the season that Sean McDermott had this year as the head coach, not something that you really think about. But think about what would have happened in an alternate world where, we'll talk about it in a second, but Mark Andrews catches that 2-point conversion, the Ravens go to overtime, they win that game, and the Bills are bounced in the divisional round after playing to a 2 seed throughout the course of the season. What happens then? Well, I think at that point, if you have a candidate like Ben Johnson available, and you have a quarterback like oh God, Josh Allen, forgot his name for a second, I wouldn't be shocked if they pulled the trigger there and brought in Ben Johnson. Who knows how it plays out in the locker room? Who's to say? But that's just something that I could have seen happening. Really, the Bills won. Doesn't matter. It's all water under the bridge. We'll never know if that was going to happen or not. But could have been a reason why this waited until Monday. But also, most likely, it was because they didn't want to overshadow any sort of headlines for the divisional round or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't know where the Lions go from here necessarily. I know Dan Campbell is going to hire some new coordinators, and we'll see if he gets the hires right. It's going to hinge, I mean, really, that's going to be resulting from that. You're going to see what happens here over the next 4 years of Lions, of Lions football. So, big offseason. I mean, probably the biggest offseason that the Lions have had under this administration with Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. Crucial offseason, and they got to make some big-time decisions if they want to keep their playoff, really just championship hopes alive, because they're going to be a playoff team probably no matter what, but championship run, we'll see if that's in the offing for them. It all hinges on what hires that Dan Campbell makes at the coordinator. So, fascinating things to consider there. We'll keep it moving. We'll just go chronologically from here. Why not? So we got the Houston Texans going on the road to the Kansas City Chiefs, and Kansas City Chiefs do get the win, 23-14. Looks dominant, and I mean, I suppose you could say it was to a certain extent. All anyone's coming out of this game talking about, I mean, it wasn't the football. It was a horrid, miserable game there as far as the weather was concerned. It's cold, windy. No one was scoring a whole lot of points in this one. It was just a ground and pound style of game, which, fascinatingly enough, Houston actually won the rushing battle. They just ultimately didn't quite do enough because the refs were out of control in this game, with some late hits on Mahomes that were being called, phantom roughing the passers, late hits on the sideline where Mahomes is intentionally slowing down to draw a penalty on a defender. Just cheap stuff, really. And it just, I'm not a guy that's saying that the refs are fixing games or anything like that, but it's just such clearly preferential treatment to Patrick Mahomes, whether it's to keep him healthy or what. I don't understand what's going on there, but the refs were out of control in Kansas City, and ultimately a 9-point win is a 9-point win, but you look offensively, the Texans outperformed the Kansas City Chiefs in this game. It was just, I don't know, man. It just doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. There was no turnovers between the teams, and still, when it was all said and done, I mean, I guess the difference is Harrison Butker went 3 for 3 on kicking field goals. Kaimi Fairbairn went 2 of 4 with a missed extra point. So that's probably your difference right there more than anything. Also had a long return. Who is that? Chris Boyd just shoved the Houston Texans special teams coordinator. Wild moment there. Not sure if he still has a job or not. I haven't heard any headlines, so I assume so. I assume that's a thing that happened there, but yeah, I mean the big differences in this game were the kicking game and the refs, and that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the only difference, and it sucks for the Houston Texans just because they didn't play a great game by any stretch of the imagination. But you go for 150 yards on the ground, basically. C.J. Stroud throws for 245, doesn't throw an interception. You expect a little bit more than what you got there scoring-wise. That's a credit to the Kansas City Chiefs defense. But, yeah, it's just the cards were stacked against you, man. This was a tough loss. Tough loss to swallow because, I mean, you could have done more, sure, but there was a lot of stuff going against you in this one. So, Houston Texans are into the offseason. I guess it seems like they're going to stick with Bobby Slowick at offensive coordinator. I don't know that I would. The offensive line is a disaster on this team. I mean, this game notwithstanding, they had a solid enough outing, I suppose. But still, that's not even true. 8 sacks given up on C.J. Stroud. And that's really where the game also was lost by the Texans here. They gave up a bunch of pressure that ultimately ended some drives and kept him, I mean, out of reasonable field goal range for Fairbairn because he was just all over the place in this one. I just don't. If it were me, I would try and move forward with a different offensive coordinator. Just me personally, I don't love what I saw from Bobby Slowick this past season, or really last season for that matter. At times, it's just too many runs on first down. Not enough good receivers to make the offense look good, which is a problem in and of itself. But I mean, still, just not a very good offensive performance just throughout this season from the Texans. And who knows what they do from here? But if it were me, I probably wouldn't keep Bobby Slowick around. I'd probably be looking in a different direction. Now, we look at the Chiefs, though. They are into the AFC Championship for, I believe, the 7th time in Patrick Mahomes' career with them. Just an insane run of championship games here for the Kansas City Chiefs. They're facing off against, well, we'll see here in just a second, but an old foe, we'll just say, an old foe in the AFC title game. And this team just feels as inevitable as ever. Do they have a good game? No. They go for less than 350 yards total offense in this one, but they get big plays in special teams. They get big plays really just from Patrick Mahomes taking flops, I suppose. Also, not turning the ball over is a huge thing as well. They leaned on their run game late. It wasn't good throughout the game, but late in the game, Kareem Hunt had some big-time carries, got a touchdown late to kind of seal this thing up for him, and that was all she wrote. So, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't think they're as good of a team as the Bills, which we'll talk about that here in just a second. But, yeah, I don't think they're as good of a team as the Bills. But I don't know. There's just there is an inevitability to them that is hard to deny. That being said, I think I might bet on the Bills, man. I don't know. We'll have to table that discussion for now, but let's kind of move on from here. Moving on to Sunday. So the Eagles saved my bacon here by getting a push. I wish they would have gotten a little bit more on the defensive side here late, so we'd be talking about more than a push. But it is what it is here. The Eagles get an exciting win over the Rams, 28-22. Saquon Barkley seals it late with a long 78-yard touchdown run to kind of cap this thing off, put the game out of reach. The Rams scored a touchdown late to kind of make it a little bit closer, get Matthew Stafford's numbers looking a little bit better. But it was all for naught when it was all said and done. Eagles get the win. They punch their ticket to the NFC title game where they're going to face off against a divisional opponent in the Commies of Washington, D.C. Beautiful, beautiful matchup there, but we'll put a pin in that and talk about it on Thursday's episode. Rams, they got damn close in this one, and I'll tell you what, it was a loss, and I'm sure this has got to sting, but with what you've seen from this team, I mean, you can even take Matthew Stafford out of it. He had a solid game, threw for 324 yards, 2 touchdowns, got him within a breath of possibly winning it. But the reasons for optimism are not Matthew Stafford, because Matthew Stafford's not going to be there for a whole lot longer. He's long in the tooth. We're probably like maybe a year or two away from him retiring if he doesn't just go ahead and do it this offseason. I'd be a little bit shocked if he did it at this point, but I mean, wouldn't be that shocked if he did it. Outside of that, I mean, Kyron Williams went for over 100 yards. Your offensive line has played well. Really down the stretch of this season, you put together a good unit just with mid-round draft picks as well. You got, I mean, Puka Nacua is a great player. Cooper Kupp, not the player that he once was, but still rock solid at what he does. You're getting good contributions from all over the place because you have a really, really good core of young talent outside of Matthew Stafford. 2 turnovers from the fumbles, though. That's not good. That's not good. That's ultimately the difference in this game is those turnovers because the Eagles didn't do it at all. But outside of that, I mean, you're talking about Kobe Turner. He got himself a sack and 2 tackles for loss. Jared Verse backed up all the shit he was talking to Philadelphia fans. He had 2 sacks, 3 tackles for loss. Didn't quite get there when it was all said and done, but it's just, you're studded with young talent. I mean, not even just in the players. Nick Shula, the defensive coordinator, has acquitted himself very nicely. He's like barely older than me. He's a young coordinator doing very, very well with a young Los Angeles Rams defense. So the future is bright if you can figure out the quarterback situation, but we'll see where they go from here. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I just don't know that they're going to be bad enough to get themselves in position to draft one of those big-time quarterbacks in the next couple of years. So we'll see. I mean, the free agent quarterback market is not exactly a game that you want to play if you want to get like a real franchise quarterback going forward, because you're buying distressed assets at this point. If they were all that good, then the other team that they were playing for would have kept them. So don't love that. Don't love the vibes at the quarterback position. But, I mean, the rest of the team looks good, and you got some time to figure it out at this point. So all is not lost for the Rams. You still got some good years ahead of you, and if you stay healthy for this whole season, you might not have even been in this situation facing off against the Eagles. Maybe you're the team beating the Lions in the second round there. Who's to say? Who's to say at that point? But, I mean, let's put the spotlight on the Eagles here. Jalen Hurts, was it pretty? No, but 15 of 20, 128 yards, no touchdowns, but no turnovers whatsoever. Went for 70 yards on the ground, 1 touchdown, 1 long touchdown of 44 yards. You'll take that from Jalen Hurts if he's not turning the ball over. Saquon Barkley, that is the straw that stirs the drink. Let us not get anything twisted here. 26 carries, 205 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, including that 78-yarder to ice it at the end. He is playing championship-level football, and this guy right here, this is the reason why I'm telling you, even with Jalen Hurts not playing as good as that year that they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Chiefs, even with that being said, I feel better about this team winning a possible Super Bowl because they have that man, Saquon Barkley, because they have guys on the other side like Jalen Carter, who absolutely wrecked this game down the stretch for the Los Angeles Rams. You've got, Josh Sweat, all sorts of players on the defensive side of the ball. I'll just have to read off. Darius Slay's a little long in the tooth here, but defended 3 passes in this one. Zach Bond really emerged this season. C.J. Gardner-Johnson, Oren Burks, Reed Blankenship, Cooper DeJean, Quinion Mitchell. You're loaded with talent on the defensive side of the ball with a really good defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, and you've got a war daddy on the offensive side of the ball in Saquon Barkley, and an offensive line to make this a legitimate championship team with just that formula of run game and defense. It's an old formula. It's the oldest formula in the book on how to win a championship at the NFL level or just in football in general. It still works, baby. If you can do it, you can get it all the way to the championship with that strategy. Doesn't have to be anything super crazy. Doesn't have to be something where you go out of your way and make some crazy plays, passing the ball. You're going to need a few of those. Don't get me wrong, but if your quarterback is not turning the ball over, if he is supporting the running game, and if you got a bell cow, the best running back in the entire league for my money, running the ball and icing games for you, that's a championship team right there. I'll just go ahead and spoil it. I think the Eagles are going to win against the Commanders. I'm probably not betting that game because I'm not Jaden Daniels. I'm not going to be on the other side of a bet for him. I'll tell you what, maybe I'll bet the over. We'll just see on that one. I still might not do that because I still believe in the Eagles defense. In a weird spot on that one. I think the Eagles win. They get to the Super Bowl, and all bets are off when they get to the Super Bowl. I don't know what's going to happen, but they got as good a shot as any team of winning the Super Bowl this year, regardless of who they play. Whether it's the Bills, who we're going to talk about here in a second, whether it's the Kansas City Chiefs, does not matter to me. They've got a fantastic shot of winning this thing, and low-key might be the best team left. It's them and the Bills, really, I would say, as far as like overall quality of roster. But I think the Eagles' defense is better than what the Bills are putting out there. Maybe the quarterback is, the quarterback is not quite as good in Philadelphia as the one in Buffalo. But, man, you talk about everything else that the Eagles have. I feel better about this team in 2024, now in 2025, than the one that lost in 2023 to the Kansas City Chiefs. So, big game coming up for the Eagles, but I could not be any more impressed than I am right now with the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're a really, really good football team, and maybe on the way to hoisting the Lombardi. There's 3 other teams that have something to say about that, but we'll see about that when rubber meets the road on next Sunday. Anyways, let's get to the final game here. We have got the granddaddy of them all for this weekend. And by the way, back-to-back snow games. We had a blizzard over there in Philadelphia. We had even more snow with the Buffalo Bills here hosting the Baltimore Ravens. Just bellissimo. You love to see it. It's beautiful to see playoff football played in the snow. And if you don't like it, you're not a real American, okay? That's my promise to you. If you don't love snow football, get over it because it's fucking awesome, all right? But in this one, this was just a banger. Back and forth the entire time. Josh Allen didn't have a crazy game in this one. No one really had a crazy game for the Buffalo Bills in this one. All they had to do was just hold on and let the Ravens make mistakes, essentially. This game ultimately came down to turnovers. The Buffalo Bills, 0. The Ravens, 3. What's your final score? Bills get the win 27-25. And I'll tell you what, the Ravens still could have won this thing because Lamar Jackson, the presumptive MVP of this season, I would say. You had the 2 MVP candidates, the two true MVP candidates facing off in this game between Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson likely won that battle. I think it's going to be a little bit close, but ultimately I think Lamar Jackson won that battle, and he'll ultimately get the MVP. He looked like it on that final drive. He goes, I think, 88 yards on like 8 plays, gets right down the field, gets the touchdown. They need a 2-point conversion to essentially send this thing to overtime. That being said, Josh Allen still got like 20 or so seconds time left on the clock. You never know with that guy. I digress on that front. You get the look you want. You get Mark Andrews rolling out. All he has to do, he's butt naked, wide open. Just catch the ball, fall on the pylon, and baby, we are going to extra time here. Unfortunately, Mark Andrews, the ball hits him right in the chest. He drops it. That's game. Baltimore, once again, will not be going to a Super Bowl, and once again will be wasting an MVP year for Lamar Jackson. Just tough stuff in this one. And Lamar's not blameless in this. He had an inexcusable fumble early on in the game where he just broke his fall with the ball. The ball comes out, Bills recover it. That leads directly to points. He threw an interception in this game as well. So he's not blameless in this whole thing. When the margins are this slim, that's ultimately what ended up tipping the scales. But he had a great game, and man, you just couldn't quite do enough. It's the toughest part for Lamar Jackson is you kind of got to look in the mirror to a certain extent, because 2 of the 3 turnovers were him. I mean, the other one was Mark Andrews, who had a rough game in this one, by the way. Rough game for Mark Andrews in this one, between the drop lates and the fumble that he had in this one. Not great whatsoever. But I mean, honestly, you won the yardage battle more than anything. You were going up and down the field on this Bills defense to the tune of just like 270 yards given up on the other side. The Ravens were dominating this thing on the stat sheet. They just made too many mistakes, and ultimately that's what did them in. I just don't think you change anything this offseason, because the team that's put together, I mean, all you do at this point is get more pass rushers, I would say. I think that's the main thing. Only 1 sack on Josh Allen all day. It wasn't a passing day whatsoever, but the running game wasn't exactly breaking off huge runs either. It was just get Josh Allen down to the goal line and he can run it in for you. Two rushing touchdowns, by the way. I made it sound like he had a terrible game. It wasn't fantastic, wasn't pretty, but he was the reason that they won the game. Make no mistake about it. Man, I really just kind of delineated all throughout this thing here. But yeah, I mean, you just dropped one if you're the Ravens. You got to get yourself some pass rushers this offseason. Coaching staff-wise, you make no changes whatsoever. I think everyone comes back, and you just run this thing back again. You bolster the wide receivers. You bolster the defensive line with pass rushers, and then you roll the dice again, because you're still the best team in that division going forward. Everyone else is figuring some stuff out. The Baltimore Ravens are still going to be right in this spot next year. You just got to reload and try and come back better. Now on the Bills side of things, you're in the AFC Championship game. And look, man, I know it's on the road. I know you are at the Chiefs. And that has been a historic bugaboo for this Bills franchise under Josh Allen and Sean McDermott. But if not now, when? Man, that this Chiefs team, yes, they went 15-2 this year. Yes, they find ways to win when you don't expect them to. The Bills are better than the Chiefs as a roster. Flat out. They already beat them once this year, with both teams kind of at the height of their powers here. The Chiefs don't have good receivers, at least not a full good receiving core. The run game is, I mean, it's beatable, as we saw in their matchup this past week against the Texans. It's beatable if you play your cards right, and I think that the Bills can. That being said, I would be a little bit worried that the Ravens ran for 176 on you, but I think the Bills can at least stymie a one-dimensional offense there with the Chiefs. No disrespect to Patrick Mahomes, it's just the receiving situation is the receiving situation at this point. I mean, offensively, you're going to have some trouble with that defensive line, but if you just hold up and you give Josh Allen time and you grind this thing out, the Bills should be in the Super Bowl. This is the year for the Bills right now. This is where we're at right now with the Buffalo Bills. You're going to get more cracks at it in coming years. At some point, the Chiefs are going to get this thing figured out again. They're going to get the offense back on schedule, and we're going to be seeing the buzzsaw again. You have to strike while the iron is hot, because you don't. you don't necessarily know that you're going to get these chances again with a team that is vulnerable like the Chiefs, although very successful throughout the course of the year. You have to strike while the iron is hot. Immense pressure on the Buffalo Bills here in this AFC Championship game. They must, I repeat, must get to the Super Bowl this year. It's not exactly do or die, but whatever the next closest thing is to that, they got to get the job done this year. At the very least, get to the Super Bowl. They should be trying to win. Obviously, everyone is trying to win, but at least to get to the Super Bowl, there's a lot of pressure on this Bills team right now. And again, it's them and the Eagles right now as far as best overall rosters left that are on the board for the championship games here for Super Bowl contenders. Interestingly enough, the two seeds in each conference are the cream of the crop, I suppose. I mean, man, you gotta get at least to the Super Bowl. That's the main thing. You gotta get at least to the Super Bowl. That being said, bit of a shorter episode today, only like 40 minutes or so. But there's not a whole lot to talk about. We're gonna be just careening into the off season here soon, where we're gonna have to figure out some content. Maybe we'll take a week break or two. We'll just have to wait and see. That being said, I mean, the combine's coming up here pretty soon. But that being said, we'll table the college football discussion. We'll recap the title game here on Thursday. Excited for the game tonight. I did ultimately bet on Ohio State, so you know how that went. All I know is that a true freshman left tackle is starting for Notre Dame, and the second I heard that, I placed whatever money was left in my sports betting account on the Ohio State Buckeyes -8. So we'll see how that works out. That being said, thank you so much for tuning into Unqualified Analysis. For right now, we're doing this thing twice a week. That is quickly going to come to an end here in the next couple of weeks, if not before the end of the month here. We're getting back to one episode here soon, probably just on Tuesdays. We'll wait and see on that. But for right now, we do it twice a week. Right now, it's a recap on Tuesdays, preview on Thursdays. Probably just be like that through the end of the season before we get back to the one episode a week here for the off season. Outside of that, you can subscribe wherever you listen to this. Go ahead and subscribe. Watching on YouTube, subscribe there. Words, yes, do it. Share. Yeah, do all that sort of stuff. And in addition to that, follow me on the socials at CalebVUA. Shoot me a DM if you want to get in contact with me, or shoot me an email, unqualifiedanalysis@gmail.com. Both those links are down in the description as well. That being said, thank you so much for tuning in to Unqualified Analysis. As always, I've got no clue what I'm talking about, and I closed out my notes app because I'm a cotton-headed ninny muggins. That's just a fact. That's just an absolute fact here. That being said, I found the notes app here. Farmers used to keep donkeys mostly as work animals, but in the modern era of technology, donkeys are still kept around because they are apparently elite guard animals. Things I did not know. A coyote hates to see a donkey coming. Apparently donkeys just have a habit of just breaking coyote jaws. Badasses. Ornery sons of bitches. Hee-hawing all over the damn place. That being said, I'm going to go edit this thing. I'm going to go walk my dog. And, hey, enjoy the football. Well, I'm going to enjoy the football on Monday night. I hope you did. We'll talk about it all on Thursday. See ya.